Welcome to this tutorial on motion. We're going to be creating an opening title graphic that does a little bit of moving. So you'll have to grab motion. So if you go to Spotlight, if it's not already down in your doc, type in motion and that'll launch this. And then I'm in the lab right now, so hopefully this is the same version of motion that everybody is using right now. This will pop up. Let's set our preset to broadcast HD 1080, and most of you guys are shooting in 2398 on the camera, so it should look like film that way. And we'll just do a motion project. The duration will be 10 seconds. Maybe we could even make that a little shorter, so maybe like 8 seconds. 08. And then we're going to say open. Okay, so here's the motion interface. A couple things. For whatever reason, motion likes to start in a zoomed in state in this canvas area here. So we're going to zoom out. If you command minus, that'll zoom you out. Command plus will zoom you in, so whatever reason it starts kind of zoomed in. The other thing you can do is shift Z. That's a global zoom, so you see kind of the whole, from all parts of the canvas. So make sure you see the whole canvas before you get started. And then what we're going to do is just add some text. So why don't you grab the text tool at the bottom here, and we're going to click, so maybe in the middle. Typically full screen graphics are somewhere in the middle, maybe even like 1/3 or the other third. But we'll start there. And then it's giving me, it's called the heads up display, the HUD, down at the bottom here. And you can say window, show or hide HUD, and it's the F7 key. F7 is above your number keys, and I think you're going to have to hold the function key, which is to the right of the delete key on the keyboard. So function key F7. Let's see that that's working. Function key F7. Nope, maybe just F7. Nope, none of that is working, maybe because I'm in the text tool. But show or hide the HUD, heads up display is here, so there's that. And then we've made a text layer in a group. So in this text layer, we're going to type in, let's say, my awesome film title. And then when you're making text, or when you're making any graphic or making any piece of art inside of a frame, you have to consider the space, the kind of dead space to what the subject of what the purpose of the frame is. So proportions. This is at a very small proportion to the frame, so let's make it bigger. To do that, you can do it in the HUD, but I'm probably going to steer you away from the HUD. You get more controls if you go into the inspector. So the library gives you a bunch of stuff to play with, but in the inspector, if you have something selected in one of your layers, it gives you all the things you can do with that layer. So we'll start in this text section of the inspector, and we're going to crank up the font size. So boom, something like that. And what I'm actually going to do is down at the bottom I can see the text that I've typed. I'm going to jump this maybe so that it's over 2 lines, maybe even over 4 lines to make things big and fit on the screen better. My awesome film title, and then maybe even crank this up even further. So see how I'm giving more proportion to everything? Line spacing, I think at the beginning of the year we talked about tracking when we were using Photoshop, so I like to squeeze things together. The line spacing, I think you have to have that highlighted, so I'll do that. Click and drag the highlight, and then line spacing, yeah, we can kind of squish some stuff together. So it starts to look cooler when you kind of tighten things up and there's less space, in my opinion. It started out with Helvetica, which is a good thing. You want to be in Helvetica. Also, you probably want it to be bolded, and something like that looks cool already. So, we can go with that. You can also get into the layout. So if you wanted to, maybe it's under appearance. Format. Oh, here it is. So alignment. So like, do we want, oops, I only have that one line selected, so I'm going to undo that. Command Z is undo. If you want all of these to be, you can click and drag there, or we can click and drag there. Aligned, so there's center, there's right aligned, and I would move it. To move it, you would use this click and drag transform tool. You can click and drag it over. So maybe we want it right aligned, something like that. And what we'll do from here is, after you have it kind of configured, maybe you can click through and, do you want it to maybe play with some 3D text? That kind of gives it some depth. There's all sorts of stuff in here. I'm not going to go through it, but if you want to play with it, go for it. Face, this is the color, so if you wanted to change the color, that's how you would do it there. Outline, I typically would say don't use an outline. Glow, it has this kind of like background glow, and you can play with the color and where it's placing the glow or how much blur the glow is doing. Again, subtle is best, and I usually typically wouldn't use a glow unless I was doing something very specific. I do use drop shadows pretty often. You're not going to see it here, but maybe if we make the color white, you'll see it better. You can kind of see that there's an offset, and you can even blur those. But the distance which the offset happens is there, and the angle in which the offset happens is there. So there's quite a bit of stuff to play with, and then your layout. Let's not use layout. So at a certain point, let's be happy with our text, and then you're going to apply a behavior to the text. So we'll go back over to the library, select behaviors, and let's use a basic motion. But if you want, you can please go through and look for text animation, text sequence. But there's certain things that you can do to make this thing, this layer do something. So if you want it to grow or shrink, we could apply that. And now we have grow shrink on the layer. And if I apply it and I hit the space bar, nothing is happening. Why did that not work? Let's go into scale 2. There we go. So you have to scale to something. We were scaling to nothing. It just kind of stayed the same. So this behavior makes things scale. I'm actually going to delete the behavior. So select it and big delete key. Not really digging that one. Go back over to library, and maybe let's play with some text sequencing. And there's a lot here. So do you want it? You can see a preview here to arrange in, to blur in. This is a single letter at a time kind of thing. Drift in. It's everything. Fade lines in. I use often. Let's try this one. Fade lines in. So I'll apply this, and then it's going to happen across this duration. So boom, awesome, film, title. If I want it to happen slower, I can drag this out and it'll happen across that time. Pretty slow now. And I'm probably going to go and shorten it up again. My awesome film title. Okay, I'm happy with that. And the last step I want you to do is to export. So we've added text, we made it move, and now we're going to spit it out and show you how to do that. A little bit about file management. I didn't do any file management up front except for set my size here. So when we chose 1080p and the frame rate in the beginning, I would often, I probably should have said, all right, let's do a save as now. So it's currently on title. We'll do a file, save as, and then you're going to click this little down arrow and hunt for your C drive in your folder. So I'll make my folder Mr. Pistone, something like that, and then in the Mr. Pistone folder, I will name this today's date. I don't know what today's date is. 24. And we'll call this film title. And now we have the project file saved, so that you'll be able to come back to and change things and do arrangements. So this is not video at this point. This is just a motion project file that saves kind of what text is on the frame and where you've placed it, how you've arranged it, and what behaviors you've applied to it. So it kind of remembers everything that you've done to a file. And now what we need to do is spit it out, export. So it's in the share menu. It's a little different than Final Cut. In Final Cut, it's in the file share menu. You find the share menu under file, but it gives it its own menu for whatever reason in Motion. So share, export movie, and now it's going to spit this out as a video file. And then I just wanted to show you this color plus alpha. Alpha means this black in the background is actually not going to be black. So if you lay this over top of video, you'll be able to see to the layers beneath it. If you only have color, then it'll be a black frame, and you wouldn't be able to put this text above any video. So here's color plus alpha, and we're going to say next. And we're going to export. So we have the project file, and now this is going to be the video file. And if I click save, it's now spitting it out. It should be a pretty quick thing because there's not too much stuff that I applied to the text. And then I'm going to play it. It opens up in QuickTime. I'll say play it. And this is what it'll look like in the frame. So it's an 8-second long timeline, and it does a behavior. Okay, so at that point, you might want to bring in Final Cut. So the goal here is to try to come up with a good film title and come up with a good arrangement. Maybe you want to put it over video, and there might be something happening in the left side of the frame. I don't know. But it's kind of a competition to see who can come up with the best title and who can come up with the best looking graphic, and then your group will choose that, and it'll be your title for the end of the year project. So we'll go over to Final Cut now at this point. Here's our Final Cut, and I'll see if I can find some video already on this drive and bring this in. So we'll continue, and let's see if I can open somebody's library that already exists on the C drive. Darren. We'll pick on Darren. So he's got a Man on the Street that he did earlier in the year. We'll go into that event, and we will open up the. I don't see the project. I see a bunch of clips, but not a project. So we'll make a project file, new project, and we'll call this title graphic. And here's our project. There's nothing on the timeline yet, but we'll grab something where maybe there's interesting stuff happening on the left. Looks like there's not really a clip that will work for that, but we'll just we'll grab this one here, and we will E key, get it to the timeline, and I'm going to import, and that's Command I or File Import Media, and then I exported that clip from Motion. Go on the C drive, we'll go in my Mr. Pistone folder, and now there's that movie file that I exported. Import. So that puts it in your bin, and you can then take that and drag it to the timeline, or I'll go with the A or Q key that's connected, so it'll put it on the layer above wherever the timeline is. So I'll select this Q key. Now it's on the layer above. So you can see that this is going to, if I hit the space bar, and I'm going to mute this, what happened in that interview. We will hit the space bar, and then boom, my awesome film title, and it stays on the screen for the duration that we have here, and it's just going to cut and disappear. Now if we didn't like that, we could have it fade out here, like we could apply a fade out behavior, library text sequence. So we have fade lines in, and then we can also apply the fade lines out if we wanted to, and we'll drag that over here so it happens at the end. So, boom, boom, boom. Oh, I dragged the wrong one. The other way. Fade line in goes there, fade lines out goes there, and now it goes away. And you can kind of change the way it disappears too. If you go in the inspector and fade lines out, controls, enemy line. Direction, let's do backwards, so it does a title, film, awesome eye, instead of the opposite that we just saw. And then you would export it again if you wanted to have like the out animation also on that graphic file. But like, let's say we didn't feel like going back to Motion, we can maybe fade this out at the end here. You maybe would use a transition. So it's this icon here, and let's say we'll just cross dissolve and fade this out. So it also is going to be fading in, and then at the end it'll be fading out. So something like that, and then when you're happy with that, you would file share, and there's that share menu. Export for however you're going to export it. Usually we do master file. So that's going to do it for this tutorial. Again, the goal was to grab your get into Motion, add some text, understand the interface a little bit, maybe move the text around, go and apply some behaviors and see what they do, format the text, play with that, spit something out so you're going to share it, and then bring it over to Final Cut and put it either on top of video, or we could put it before video, and it'll just be over black. And that's going to do it for this tutorial.